guys, my name is Tilly Thompson and welcome. Okay, before I say anything or before I start, I just want to say sorry, for being gone for so long, but I am glad and I'm happy to be back and I hope that you are well wherever you are. And yeah, you know the drill. If you hadn't subscribed, please do so. And don't also forget to hit that notification button so that you can get a notification every time I load a video. Don't forget to like, please, and share the video if you can. And also, the comment section, guys, I also want to hear from you. I also want to hear about your experiences, anything, comments, or whatever that you want to say about the topic that I'm going to be discussing or talking about. I also want to hear that. So please don't be shy to use the comment section. Um, so today I wanted to talk about generational circles, or what we call, intergenerational circles or family patterns. These refer to, learned behaviors, habits, or beliefs that are normally passed from one generation to another in a family. And, they can be, sometimes they can be positive as well. It's not only negative, but most of the time when we use the term, we use it to describe those um, patterns, that may be harmful or that have a limiting, impact on the affected individual or family. So some of these, family patterns or generational circles are maybe, financial struggles that you find in a family. If maybe your family has struggled financially from one generation to another, a struggle with unhealthy relationships, most almost everybody in the family is struggling with being in unhealthy relationships. Another example is trauma. Another example can be addiction. Other families are struggling from that, whether it's addiction of drugs, alcoholism, or whatever. There's many of them. I can give you a lot of examples. There's many of them. And you find these in families, and most of the time we don't talk about them, especially in those families that are affected. We don't talk about these, and I think this is why it's very easy for them to be passed on from from one generation to another. I have also struggled with some of these. I totally understand, how frustrating it can be to have, a clear plan of how you want your life to turn out, but for some reason, the total opposite or exactly what you're avoiding ends up, happening in your life. Or, those times where you keep on repeating the same mistake and you don't know how, even though you tried by all means to avoid it. So, yeah, it might be because of those generational patterns. So I know that some people, at some point also, I also believed that these were generational curses, and some people also do believe that they're generational curses and that you need to pray for them to make sure that they're broken. I also believe that. I do believe that prayer works, but I also believe that there are things that we need to do, as families or as people, to make sure that we break these circles and we make sure that they are not passed on to the next generation. So firstly, you need to do some reflection. You need to identify these patterns and know what they are. You need to understand what they are. Then secondly, you need to identify the root cause, what's causing them. For example, let's say you have identified a family pattern of financial struggles. You need to understand what's causing that pattern. Is it maybe lack of financial education? Is it overspending? Or is it, living beyond your means? Once you have identified the root cause, then it's going to be, easy for you to come up with a solution. Then number two, you need to acknowledge the impact. You also need to acknowledge that there's a problem. You know the saying that if you want a solution to any problem, first of all, you need to acknowledge that there's a problem. So you can't be in denial. You need to acknowledge the impact of this problem. Then number two, you need to educate yourself. Is there something, if it's something that you can learn from anywhere, then you need to educate yourself and learn new and positive patterns or behaviors that are opposite from what you're trying, from those that you're trying to break. So you need to educate yourself. And then you also need to get professional help if you can afford it. I know some people cannot afford professional help, but we do have people in our communities like your pastors who have knowledge and can always, assist you, when you're struggling with these. And then the other thing that you need to do is that then you also need to set clear goals and boundaries. You need to take action. Like I said in the beginning, it's okay to pray and everything, for these circles or curses to be broken. But then you also need to take action. Take small steps into building these new habits. So that you can unlearn, the negative ones. For example, again, I have so many examples. I told you guys about how I grew up. Life wasn't very good, struggling with my mother and everything. And so we had a two-room house that we lived in with me and my mother and my three cousins. Ne? And then my mother built a two-room shack behind that two-room house for us, the kids. Okay, one room was the kitchen, and then the other room was our room as kids that we slept in. Then we only had one wardrobe in the house, and this was in my mother's bedroom. So, and it was very small. So it only, only my mother's clothes fitted in that wardrobe. So as the kids, we didn't have any way to put our clothes. I remember sometimes we'd have boxes where we're supposed to put our clean clothes in, but then, like I said, most of the time we were by ourselves in the house. My mother was not there most of the time, so there was no order. Into Nobody taught us how you need to fold your clothes, how they need to be neat and everything. So we just threw them in the box, like I said, and then when you need something, you just go look for it in there, you take it out. So that is one habit that also, that um, I don't, should I say that I grew up with? Yeah, that I grew up with, because even in my adulthood, when I had my own place and I had, like, lots of space for everything, for my clothes and for my children's clothes and for everything, but I still couldn't, you know, I didn't know how to fold clothes. I'm being honest, guys. I didn't know how you fold clothes and how you put them in the wardrobe. So every time my clothes or my wardrobe would be a mess, I just threw clothes in there. And this was because, like I said, this is how I grew up. You know, my mother didn't intentionally instill this in me, but because of the circumstances, because of the environment that I grew in, I learned those bad habits. So I identified this, and I'll tell you why I saw that it was a problem. When I saw my kids doing the same thing in their wardrobes, then I was like, oh no, okay, I don't want to pass this to them. So this is one thing that I identified. I mean, I can pray about it, but guys, I needed to take action to make sure that I put those goals and make sure that I do it, because it's an ongoing journey. Remember, you are unlearning something that has been instilled with you in you or within you for years, and you have to unlearn it. So it had to start with me. I had to make sure that, okay, I learn how to fold clothes. I learn how to put my closet or wardrobe in order so that my kids can also learn from that. You understand? So it's very important to have those goals, and it's very important that you are consistent, because if you're not, then you will also be teaching them, if you have kids around you, you'll also be teaching them the inconsistency part. So that now leads me to the other thing that you need to do. You need to communicate. If you have children, or if you are living with any younger generation, you have to communicate these patterns to them to make sure that you don't pass, to make sure that they're not passed on to them. One that I'm going to talk about, personally, that affected me personally, is that family circle or pattern of, having children at a young age, having children out of wedlock. I mentioned in my previous video that I had, one of my videos, that I had my son at the age of 18. So I got pregnant at 17 and I had my son at the age of 18. And like I said, many women in my family had gone through the same. So, how do I make sure that the same pattern is not passed on to my children? I need to be honest with them. I need to have these conversations, ongoing conversations with them. And then the very important thing is that I need to be honest. I can't sit down with my kids and tell them that, um, children, you need to wait until marriage, um, before you get intimate. Because obviously they're going to ask themselves, or even ask me, they have asked me to say, like, but you didn't wait. So why do you expect us to wait? That's when I realized that I needed to be honest. You can't, I know most of the time as parents, we want to we want to have this perfect, we want our kids to have, we want to have this perfect image for our kids, ne? But the problem is, if there are gaps, or if something doesn't add up, they'll see it. Kids grow up, they'll have questions, and they'll wonder, how did this happen? So what I'm trying to say is that I needed to be honest, to say that, kids, I made a mistake. I mean, my son knows that I had him at the age of 18. So if I'm going to tell him that he needs to wait until marriage, I need to tell him that, as much as I didn't, it was a mistake from my side. I need to emphasize the fact that it was a mistake, and tell them that I don't want them to repeat the same mistake. You understand? Remember, children, they don't necessarily learn by what we tell them, but they learn from our behaviors, what we see. As we also learned, these behaviors that I'm talking about or patterns, it's from what we saw, what we grew up seeing around us, in our environment. So even with the kids, um, they need to see you, living these values or these patterns that you're trying to instill in them. Another example that I can use, say, maybe you have struggled with alcoholism and you don't want to pass the same thing on to your children. I mean, you can't tell your children that they shouldn't drink while you are drinking. It doesn't make sense. It's not going to work, actually. It's not going to work. So they need to see you not drinking, so that they can also know that, they shouldn't do it. You can't just tell them and then you are doing it on the other side, because they'll be like, okay, if she's doing it, then why are we not supposed to do it? Why are we not allowed to do it? Ne? So that's the other important part in this. Um, you know, then the other important thing is that you need to heal and forgive. Forgive yourself, forgive those family members that you have identified that might have, perpetuated these, patterns onto you. Forgive them and heal. If you have any resentful feelings towards them, release them. It's very important to heal, so that you avoid, self-destructing. Yeah. And also be kind to yourself. Those who know me, they'll tell you that I'm very hard on myself. You know, I have identified, um, mistakes that I have made. Things that I have done. And yeah, I tend to be very hard on myself, but I also learned that it's very important that I'm kind to myself, because I need to understand that this was not, whatever mistake that I might have done was not on purpose. Like I said, guys, behaviors, sometimes it's very difficult for you as a person to identify that, look, um whatever decision that I have made, it's because of the habits that I have, that I need to unlearn. So being kind to yourself is very important. So guys, self-awareness is very important. Most of the time, I don't think we are aware of how our behaviors are affected by these circles or patterns. We're not aware. You think you're just doing things because that's who you are, but it's because of what you've learned, over the years, what you've seen. Most importantly, I'm gonna tell you a very interesting story. So, you guys know a bit about how I grew up and everything. So around the age of 15, between 15 and 16, I was already in high school. Can't remember if I was doing grade 10 or 11, but I remember it was not grade 12 yet. My then English teacher asked us to write essays, and we could choose, a topic that we want to write about. So I chose to write about love not existing, you know, love, just love being a scam at that age. And this was because of my experiences growing up, how I saw my father treating my mother and my stepmom. Even the environment in general that I grew up in, there were hardly any, positive or good examples of love. I mean, all you saw were couples fighting, getting physical, stabbing one another. It used to get rough, and being raised by a very strong and independent single mother, So it was all these issues, if I can call them, that built up because it was what I saw on a daily basis. Like I said, I never had any good example of what love is supposed to be, what love is supposed to look like, Till this age, I've never seen my mother in a relationship with anyone, in love or anything like that. And it's crazy, right? And like I said, with my father, I already told you guys what happened or what I saw. So it was all these negative things that I saw that led me to believing that love doesn't exist. Love didn't exist. So that's what I wrote. I can just imagine what the teacher was going through, what was going through in his mind when he read that. But I'm sure he was aware that, this kid is messed up, So not only that, remember, these patterns, we don't only learn them from our immediate families. We also learn from our, environment, social environment, like in general, what you see on a daily basis when you go out, the type of environment that you find yourself in. Excuse me. So, like I said, from there, I was living with my mother. The kind of conversation that she would have with her friends, again, I mean, I'm talking about women who were neglected by the men that they thought loved them, or who were abused, or, So that's the kind of environment that I grew up or in or around. And I remember during that time, there was also some R&B singer. Can't remember who it was, who sang love songs, but then there was a scandal about them that came out that they were cheating on their wife and they were getting divorced. And I was confused because listening to the music back then, you thought people actually meant what they sang. This thing that they are songwriters and whatever, that somebody, I mean, we didn't know that. Okay, I didn't know that then. I thought that everybody wrote their songs, and, whatever that they were singing about is something that they believed in. I didn't understand that it was just music, it was just business. And I remember thinking, Haibo, how is this possible? So you can just imagine this also added on top of this notion that this thing called love is a scam. Yeah. There's also a song at some point, because we used to listen to a lot of radio, Lesedi FM. I remember there was a song, a Sesotho traditional song that was sung by a group of women. The song, I didn't necessarily like the song, but it still surprises me till this day how I felt like I related to the song. So the song went something like, so for those who don't understand, those of you who don't understand Sesotho, it means, had I known, I wouldn't have gotten married, because marriage is moleko. What is moleko in English? A test temptation, a scam, that marriage is just a scam. I used to sing the song, guys, at that age. Why? Because I also lived around a lot of women who were heartbroken, women who were abused by their loved ones. So when I listened to the song, I mean, it made sense. But it's sick, ne? You can just imagine. I was very young to, believe in such. And, okay, as I grew older, I tried, to unlearn, such things, behaviors or information. I tried to, look into love or life in a different light. But like I said, it's not that easy. That's why it's very important that when you identify that pattern, you have actions in place to make sure that there's something that you're actually doing to unlearn the old behavior. I'm just thinking about it now. Even the advices that we get from our family members, you go to families where you find that men in that particular family have children all over the country, with different women. And it's not just one. Most men in that particular family have children all over. And when you get to such families, as I've had this uncle giving advice to this other boy, the guy was complaining to the uncle about his girlfriend, and the uncle was like, "Hi, my son, if a woman, when a woman starts to show you that behavior, you should just leave them, to teach them a lesson and show them that as a clever, like hamsadi as a clever, clever and you do this by just leaving them, So you can just imagine such advices being given to younger generations, and those generations also passing them on to the next one. What damage is that going to do? So guys, that's why I said self-awareness is very important. We can't undo what has been done. We can't go back and change it. That's what I want to say. We can undo it, but like I said, it needs commitment and consistency. We can't go back and change it, but we can unlearn. But then it starts with being aware. So I can't emphasize enough the importance of healing. It's very important to heal, I also had to healing and forgiving, I also had to forgive my father and, my parents and everybody that might have perpetuated these patterns, It's very important because then if you don't, like I said, it's very easy to self-destruct. So healing is very important, And I also had to understand that these patterns, they're not my fault. But as much as they're not my fault, they're my responsibility. Breaking them actually is my responsibility if I want a better future for myself and my children. If I want to leave my children a better legacy, a legacy that is better than the one that I got, then breaking them is my responsibility. I can just sit and say, it's fine, they'll see, what they can do. Like it happened to me, but I choose not to, I choose to take on the responsibility of breaking these circles, not just for myself, but most importantly for my children. So yeah, guys, this is where I'm going to leave this topic. But yeah, I just want to, wish you all the best. Like I said, going into 2025, if you want to put an end, to those circles, um, follow some of these the steps that I have given you here. I can assure you that they will help. But like I said, they're not just it's not gonna happen overnight. It's a journey that needs commitment and consistency. Especially for those who have children. If you already have children, or if you're planning to have children, make sure that you break those circles now before they are passed on to the generation that comes after you. So, guys, I wish you all the best. You know, New Year's, the date, what is the date today? The 29th. Yeah. 2 days till the end of 2024. It has been a good year for me. A lot has happened. A lot has happened. I almost want to say it was a difficult year, but I'd be lying. Because as much as things happened, for some reason, I was able to, overcome whatever challenge that was thrown at me by the grace of God. You know, my faith is the one thing that helped me, overcome those challenges. If it wasn't for my faith, I don't know. I would have gotten crazy because, like I said, I'm not going to go into details, but a lot of things happened, many things happened, and maybe someday we'll talk about them. But I'm glad and I'm happy that I made it this far, and I hope that you guys are well. Please take care of yourselves. Going on to 2025, let's just make sure that we have those goals. Write them down, vision boards and everything. Let's go do that and keep ourselves accountable for things that we want to change in our lives or things that we want to accomplish in our lives. So yeah, take care of yourselves. And I'm not sure if I'm going to, load another video before the end of this year. But if I don't, I just want to wish you guys a happy new year and take care of yourselves. And, I personally am looking forward to 2025 and I hope that you are. And I really do pray to God that, whatever goals that you're going to have, everything that you want to accomplish, that He helps you, to make sure that you do that. So, yeah, good luck and all the best. And I love you guys. Bye.